Made to Make It, Season 2. Made to Make It.
Not Episode 2.
Episode 2. This is the screen dream. This is the green screen. And that's Brett.
Thanks for welcoming us into your computer.
This also smells like dogs.
Maybe it's your nose. On the first episode of Made to Make It, we talked about vision and knowing where you're going as a company. This episode, we are talking about values.
Yeah, why and what do you believe? What's keeping you core, your core values that are going to keep you on that road towards your vision? I think it's an important thing that I know I didn't, start to focus on for many, many years in business. What about you?
Yeah, it took probably 4 years into business before we really established values. I thought values had to do with something financial.
Yeah, the first thing I heard about, it was either in the book Built to Last or Good to Great, one of those two books, and I remember like, that would be a good idea. And even after that, it was many years before we actually established them. And the thing is that, values are important not only for you to know because it kind of helps guide you along the way, but also as you start going forward with other people. Because when you start a business, who do you hire?
You hire your friends, and your friends typically are similar to you. They have a lot of the same values as you.
Your values are where you're from. Your mutual experiences form mutual beliefs. Those mutual beliefs turn into your core values. So obviously your friends, like I hired my band, our band had relatively the same values. Maybe our drummer didn't have the same work ethic that I did, but he actually did once he got into the business, So yeah, really we did he knew that if he was going to be in the business with me, he would have to work hard. And he worked, I couldn't believe how hard he worked. He worked way harder making screen printing presses than he ever did playing drums or printing t-shirts, So values is important, but how many friends do you have, and then where do you go after your friends?
Yeah, and some of your friends are way too talented to ever work for you. They're making way more money than you are.
So creating values at the beginning of your business is important because it helps you attract and retain the people that believe what you believe. And if they believe what you believe, they're going to be passionate about helping you guys go together in the direction towards your vision on that road, building that road, which isn't a hard thing to do. So if they believe what you believe, they also help you stay true to your values, your core values. And it's not just something that you write down, you put on the wall, that we do have our values on the wall. It's something that are literally integrated through the lifeblood of your business that drives your culture, drives the people who you hire, drives the people that unfortunately you may have to part ways with because they clash.
Yeah, in fact, values are, once we develop them, are something that we actually put in the job descriptions now. So whenever you come on board to work for us, you sign a document that has those core values on it, saying that you are going to live by those values. Those are the laws of our company.
So if you don't have values, which neither of us had values starting out, how did you sit down and define what is important to printed threads? What do you believe? How do you put that into words? Especially a few words.
Yeah, so that's hard, and you have to think about like what is important to you or what drives you, what makes you want to wake up tomorrow to go to work, to do your job. And I think that that was really hard for me to come up with alone. I fortunately at that time had several employees, and several of those employees were sharing the same values that I was, even though I didn't know what our values were. So when we sat down and we talked about what our values were, our employees were able to come up with some words that defined the reasons why they want to come to work in the morning. So it was a collaborative effort of the core of our company, which they're core values. And so having the core of your company come up with your values makes a lot of sense.
Do you have values like on your website?
We don't.
I know we do. I think it's, why don't you?
I don't know. I think that if we truly live by our values, that the expressions, the way that we act, what we do will be seen by other people. And you might not know what our core values are because they're not written out. But when I tell you what our core values are, if you're one of our customers, you'll probably say, oh, that makes sense.
What are they?
So driven by the craft is something that we have printed on shirts that we give away. It's printed on a lot of stickers and stuff like that. So a lot of people do see that core value. But basically that means that what we do every day is something that we're excited about. We wake up in the morning because we are working on a craft, and that craft drives us to work harder and work better. The second core value is passion for progress, which means we are always working.
Wait a minute. Passion for progress?
Yes.
You guys, you think printed threads has progressed?
Not really. Yeah, we're
No,
stagnant.
totally. You guys went from like one automatic press to like 3 in like a year and a half or something like that. Most people don't do that. You're constantly changing, adding stuff, doing things differently. It's totally core.
Yeah, so I think, if not just like in the growth of our company or the the fun toys that we have or the tools that we have to make our business better, but just in the mindset and in the the printing that we do. Like when I feel this print, could it feel a little bit better? We're always thinking about like, what can we do next to make this go smoother or this feel better or to make our customers happier with their product.
So if you have something that works for you, and we have a very similar passion for products, we have one called Be the Best at Being Better. So you're always, it kind of comes from the Toyota Kaizen, like lean theory of like you're constantly learning and improving. Passion for progress, like same values, different words. But I've had people that literally, they're like, they don't learn. They don't want to learn. And when you, like, it came to a conversation like, hey, dude, one of our values is be the best at being better. You're not wanting to be better, And we say to be the best, don't be the best at being better. You're never going to be the best. You're always going to learn and improve. So what do you do with team members that aren't the passionate for progress?
I think that it's, we've had times where people have butt heads about something because they want to keep doing things the way we've always done them, and then another person is presenting a new idea and they kind of maybe clash. But the tiebreaker is always your core value. If you say, are you living by our core values, and someone realizes that they're not, they either need to change their mind or they need to realize that maybe this isn't the place for them anymore, because we are always going to be changing the way we do things.
Have you ever had somebody that was totally not living by the core values, but then they said they were, and they just argued with it? Yeah, I'm totally doing that.
I don't know that has ever been a situation I have dealt with.
No, well, our first value is be true. So if they really say that they're living by a core value and they're not living our first core value. So I've never ran into that scenario. I think at the core, people know who they're supposed to be with, and that's why, like, if you've ever, you see a school and you have all these different people from all these different places, all these different kids, and they just start to form together, like people, go together. And so most people, if you ever have a values conflict, it might seem like a hard conversation to have, but it's really not, because at the core, they either do or they don't, And if you're able to define that and talk about it, the more you talk about it, the more it becomes real. Mm. So passion for progress, what else?
We have one that is very self-explanatory, which is delivering the right product at the right time. So first of all, you want to print the shirt that your customer asks for. If they say,
maybe we should have that.
Yeah, if someone wants blue ink on a white shirt and we deliver them a white shirt with black ink, then that's a problem, right?
Ryonet values change.
So delivering the right product is a part of that. And then at the right time is important, because if you're having a 5K tomorrow and we give you the shirts 2 days after the 5K, well, what are you going to do with all those shirts? So delivering the right product at the right time. And then, when you have that value and you're up against a deadline, that means, hey, you know what? Like, we didn't get shirts printed by the cutoff. How are we going to get them there? I have myself packed 1,000 shirts in the back of a car and driven them across country to deliver them to customers on time, because that is our values. That's super important to us.
I think literally today, we had a values conflict. Every day we meet as a management team for 15 minutes, 8:30, and the only way we get stronger is people pushing us. If you just go like that all day long, you're not going to get stronger. Put your fist up there. If you push against it, if you have resistance, you're gonna get stronger. If there's no resistance, there's no strength. If you're not pushing, you're not growing. And so Brandon this morning was like, guys, I am getting way too many negative. We have a value, be positive, and it's up to us. And Brandon is typically not the most positive guy in the first place. He's more typically pessimistic, which is not necessarily negative, but more towards the glass is empty type of mentality. And he was just like, he called it on the carpet. He's like, it's up to us. We're moping around too much. It's up to me, like own it. And then everyone else follows. So we're going to set the example as our values. And so he just called it on the carpet. And I was like, dude, that's what it takes. Like, thank you. Like, I've been getting disappointed in results or whatever it might be. That's negative, So it drags you down. I might say something negative or disappointing to somebody else that drags them down. And then, and then it just goes. You just flip it around, turn it into positive, and it's so much more powerful. So it's about like those conversations, those hard conversations that make the values real.
Absolutely.
And what is your favorite value?
I think, I really like Driven by the Craft just because it really explains like, why we do what we do. But our last core value is be thoughtful. And that one really resonates with me in a couple of ways because being thoughtful is not, you might think off the top of your head it's holding the door open for someone that's walking through or saying something nice. But being thoughtful is actually like thinking. Just think. And a lot of times we are dealing with chaos, especially when we've got a lot of shirts to print on a lot of deadlines. We're just a lot of times running in circles. We're chasing our tail. And if you just step away from the situation and go into a quiet room for a minute and think, it's amazing how well you can make a plan. Our production manager came up to me the other day and we were talking about a specific job that we were worried about. We knew we had a tight deadline, and so we had talked about it a week before, saying this is exactly what we're going to do whenever the UPS truck shows up. We're going to get these shirts on carts. We're going to get them to this press and this press, and we're going to print them on multiple presses. And we explained this whole thing. And the day after we printed that job, she came up to me and said, "That job went so smooth, and I was so stressed out about it." That's like we stepped back, we thought about it, and we made a plan. When you make a plan, you can execute, right? But you can't make a plan unless you think.
Yeah. So one of the things we want to do with All Made is we wanted to create values. First of all, we wanted to get a bunch of people together, take them to a different country, experience what the whys, the reason behind what we were going to do, or for prevention, environmental, job creation, and printers, for printers, by printers. But if we decided to do it, which was very clear that we were going to decide to do it after like the first day, wouldn't you say? The first day, people were like, yeah, this is probably going to happen. We wanted to create values. So you have a bunch of people, most of them, you guys have never met each other, half the people.
Yeah, it was like, if you ever watched MTV Real World, it was like when everybody kind of comes into the house for the first time and meets each other. It's like this weird deal.
Really weird.
I knew Ryan, but I didn't know the other, 10 people. Maybe one of them I'd met one time or whatever. And it was crazy because the reason we were all there is because what we didn't know is the reason that we were all there is because our values aligned. Without even knowing each other and knowing each other's values, the reason we were all standing on a rooftop in Haiti talking about this is because our values aligned. And Ryan had the conversation with everybody, making sure that everybody's values aligned in the first place, but none of us had talked to each other. So it was really cool to stand up there and start coming up with ideas and realizing that we all had the same ideas.
And some people like to talk a lot, and some people didn't like to share as much, or they're more reserved. So what we did is we used sticky notes. So you basically, everyone has a voice with a sticky note. So to come up with All Made values, we handed out sticky notes and Sharpies, and we said, what do you feel that this brand is core to this brand? We feel it in our soul, right? That's why we're here, what you just said. And so instead of having to say something, everyone wrote stuff down, and we start to group them together. And it was awesome to see all those sticky notes from 25 different people just start to group, like living wage, or creation of value, which turned into prestige, and then all the things that are transparency in our supply chain. And so all these things that are core to what All Made was about were already there in all of our minds, and we all looked at each other without even saying anything, like, wow.
So if you have multiple team members and you certainly have someone on your team that's shy or doesn't speak as loud as other people, this is a great exercise. Give everybody a notepad and have them write down things and just go stick it on the wall or stick it on the table or on the floor or something. And then you can go group together what everybody's done. And this is a great way to create your values, because when you group together what people have said and realize that a lot of people are saying the same thing, that's probably something that should be your value. And at the end of the day, there might be some things that people write down that are funny or fun. And maybe that should be one of your core values too, because at the end of the day, we all are going to work really, really hard to accomplish our vision. We need to have a little bit of fun too. And so when there's that one thing that can be said, like all made one of our core values is prestige. Prestige has a double meaning. Prestige is about the product that we're making being a superb product, but it is also the name of the beer that we drink when we're in Haiti. So when we say that one of our core values is prestige, the true meaning of prestige is very real. But we also know that we all get together, we sweat it out on a hot day in Haiti, we come together as a group and drink beers together and have a really good time together. So having some of those like cheeky parts of your values can really help too.
And they make it easier to remember too. Like, we're always going to remember that one. And it's not just about remembering the values, but it isn't when somebody calls you on the car and say, hey, what are your values? If you don't know them, if you as a leader don't know their values. I remember we were looking at a vendor, and this vendor was like, I love how you guys have your values on your wall and everything like that. Like, we just did that. I was like, what are your values? And he's like, this is like an EVP of a company, $100 million company. And he's like, I don't really remember. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So that's how important they are. They're not obviously that important. They're not core. If you don't remember them, they're core.
Yeah, I was reading a book recently, and it was talking about how the CEO of the company would write down the core values. He would take a notepad like this, write down all of their core values on the notepad periodically, and just go stick it on his employees' computer monitors, so that they constantly are thinking about it and remembering it. And having them posted on your wall, stuff like that is great, but you don't want it to be always like, you don't want it to be something that someone walks by and ignores. Like if they always see it, sometimes they're just like, oh yeah, that's there, and they stop paying attention. But if you can do little periodic things to make people remember what their values are, that's going to spark their interest and make them think, oh yeah, am I living by that?
And we call them living values because they do change. In our core values document, which we have a document, we have words on the wall, and they've changed. Work hard and smart has changed to work smart and hard. And we continue to are we working smarter than we are harder? Now, I think it's both together, but the emphasis on the smartness is there now versus the hardness. And so, and the way we say embrace the craziness has changed a little bit too. So the values can change. A lot of times it's a shift. It's not a huge change. The whole point is that you use them. They're living, breathing values to you. Talk about them. The more real they are, the more they help guide you.
Values obviously are very important, but values actually really help define your culture as a company. And our next episode of Made to Make It will be about culture.
Sweet.